headlamp, eyebrow, and chrome trim fitment. Well, I can say that this is, like, for me, one of the most extremely difficult things to do. To put this in perspective, it took me 4 hours to get this setup that you see here on one side and 4 hours on the other side. So this is not something I found very easy to do at all. And I went through 2 sets of trims of these trim pieces here on 2 separate occasions to end up with the installation that I have right now. This, to me, is insanely difficult. I did ponder filming it, but honestly, the filming was so chaotic that it's really not worth showing. So I'll attempt to explain how I managed to get this to this level. One thing I would suggest is that you take your time. Okay, these chrome trims are very difficult to fit, and you need a method of attaching them to the actual body itself. And the way that you do that is through this rivet, and that rivet also has a little washer on the end to make it stand proud. I don't have the washer on this particular rivet. And what I ended up doing was I used 3 rivet locations, so like one about here, one about here, and one about here, relatively straight. And then I'm using the clamping pressure of these end plate and also of the chrome eyebrow to hold in the ends and to allow it to wrap. The holes that I used were already existing. You use rivets to actually attach the headlamp insert into the hood assembly, and then there are separate rivet holes for the chrome pieces. So there was more than 3 available for the actual chrome piece, but I wasn't able to get that to work. I tried several ways of mounting it. Initially, I thought you put the rivet in, then it's a simple question of pressing the chrome piece over the rivet head. But the reality is that it won't do that. So you end up bending it. I'm not sure if you'll see that in these videos. You'll end up bending it. I'll do a better look at this piece on the bench in a second, because the rivet head, which is used to attach the chrome piece to the body, is significantly bigger than that track. And again, I'll show you that on the bench in a bit more detail. So the process I use, rightly or wrongly, I don't know. Last time I fitted one of these was 11 years ago, so it's a long time, and I remember not doing a very good job of it at that particular point either. So believe it or not, this is an improvement over what I previously achieved. The problem is that these are like $50 a piece, so you can't afford to make too many mistakes. So the process that I used was that so I marked the position of the rivet location, and actually you might just be able to, okay, maybe not, right? So there's still a bit of a dot there from my black marker pen. I marked the position of the rivet head relative to the chrome piece, and then what I did was I cut a groove on the back side of the chrome piece that would allow the rivet head to fit without any interference. And I did that, and I put it like 1/4 of an inch away from where the final position of the rivet head needed to be. And then what I did was I put this piece on, and then I slid that into position. And that's easier to say than it is to actually do, but ultimately that's how I ended up getting it to work. I didn't worry about what was happening at this end at that particular time, and I didn't really worry about what was happening at that end. You have a lot of things going on at the same time. You've got to fit the gasket, you've got to fit the curvature, you've got the two ends to deal with. In the end, I ended up breaking it down. So I got the 3 rivet head locations on the chrome, relative to the chrome, to work. And then what I did was I fitted, and I did that on both sides. So inner and outer side. And then what I did was I focused on this end and fitted the eyebrow, and I aligned the rubber and the trim chrome and the eyebrow, and worked both sides. It takes quite a bit of time to actually to do that, but you end up initially positioning the eyebrow relative to the chrome piece, or you move the chrome piece into the eyebrow and you clamp it up a little bit. That holds the position. It doesn't tighten it. You don't tighten it too far down until you get the rubber in place, and then you gradually position the rubber and the chrome piece and the eyebrow, and you try and work. You tighten it a little bit, move it, position it, tighten it a little bit, move it, position it, tighten it a little bit, and eventually they start to line up. And you're trying to do that on both sides at the same time, so not so straightforward. So once I had this piece secured, this piece was not secured, obviously, and then used the same process. Basically, I had 2 ends that were held in place by the 3 rivets. And I knew that they were approximately correct because this piece here was covering both of the chrome pieces. I didn't worry about the trim at this particular point, this rubber trim at this particular point. It's a very tight corner here, so it buckles. Basically, I positioned it so that it ended up very tight underneath here, and then once I was happy with this position and this position, basically with my fingers, I was then able to decide how much to cut out to get a joint here. This side is not so bad. I got the other side much better, but the cutting of the rubber wasn't so difficult. I used a razor blade for that. And then you basically push this piece in place, push this piece in place. You're fighting the rubber at the same time. The rubber can actually stop it seating correctly, which then that makes that a little tricky. But you push this piece in place, this piece in place, try and get the rubber positioned as best as you can. Then you start the process of tightening this up. So that's how I've ended up with this at this particular level. Yeah, not easy. I mean, if there's a better way of doing it, I'm not going to take this off now, but if there's a better way of doing it, I think viewers would be very, very interested in finding out. Yeah, it took me 4 hours each side, and I'm not kidding. I'm really not kidding. And now I have it done. I'm not taking it off. This is one of the trims that I tried to use to mount before, and it was a complete disaster. What I was expecting was that on the back side you can see that there's a little bit of a track there, and I was expecting that that track would just simply click over with a bit of pressure onto the location of the rivet head. This is the piece that you see when the rivet is actually in place. I was expecting it to clip over once it's in position, and it doesn't. It's a heavy interference fit, and you end up if you try and push and push and push, or use a small rubber mallet, then you end up there's a lot of damage in here. There's some there, there's some here, and there's some here. But more importantly, what ends up happening is that you flatten out this trim because you're having to put too much force on it to get it to fit, and clearly that's not the right way to do it. So I'm like, there's got to be an easier way. I can't say that the way I've ended up doing it was the right way, but I managed to get it to work. So in the end, what I did was I took a rivet and I cut the end off it so that I've just got the rivet head, and I use that as a little gauge. I'm not sure. Anyway, there it goes. Right, yeah, it does work. All right, I'm trying to do this with one hand. So this slides in that track. So what I ended up doing was I cut a little notch either side. So that it would accept the rivet head. And then I did that in each of the different locations. And I then presented the chrome trim up to the rivets, and the cutouts were 1/4 of an inch in front of their final position. And because I only chose 3 locations and relatively straight, I was able to get it to slide, and so it then pushed that into position. And then that seems to have worked. That seems to have worked. I'd be very interested in what the proper way of doing this is. I really don't know, but anyway, that's how I've ended up getting it done. Overall, the end result, I think, it is good. I'm sure a lot of people have different opinion, but right now I'm relieved that they're on, and that I haven't actually damaged the chrome trim or the paintwork, and I've got a rubber seal all the way around, spread either side of that chrome trim. The next job before I put the finishing pieces onto the headlamp, the chrome finisher, is to align the headlights, get them set up, and then I'll end up putting the chrome on. There's a rubber seal that goes on the outside as well, I believe, and then the headlamps are done. End result looks great, but very, very painful, for me at least. Very difficult to do. Very interesting little journey there.